So how long can I talk here?
Well, they might take a look at me too long. You got a good 5 minutes.
How long can you?
Okay. I found out this morning I was doing this, so. My dad was in Iwo Jima, but he had a lot easier duty. He was on a battleship offshore during that month. But, so speaking of him, he was in this Rotary Club for many years, and he was an attorney here in town, and a fellow attorney, Ted Shy, was also in the club, and the two of them applied the four-way test to real life in Longmont. The two law firms represented, quite a large majority of the cases in town in those days. The town was around 10,000 in the mid-50s and up from there. And the two of them met every morning at Longmont Drugs, Fred Heverly's drugstore, Fritz Heverly, also a Rotarian, every morning. And there were no lawsuits filed out of those two law firms coming out of Longmont for what I heard, and this is hearsay, 27 years, no lawsuits. The two lawyers worked everything out. And I think that's admirable, that's inspirational to me, that happened. Before that, Jake Shy, he wasn't a Rotarian, but he was the father of Ted Shy, and then my dad's uncle, Gray Secor, founding member of this club. Used to also meet at that same drugstore for years during the 20s and 30s and resolve all the cases. So I think that's Rotary at work. One of the things as a kid growing up here in the 50s, so the mid-50s, town's about 9,000-10,000. It's an agricultural town. And they had a big burning of the Christmas trees on 12th night. And 12th night is the 12th day after Christmas. Shakespeare wrote a play about it, the 12th night. And, the 12 days of Christmas in that song, that's about that day. And it happens to be, the next day is the Epiphany when the wise men showed up at the manger. Anyway, in those days, Longmont collected all the Christmas trees and they piled them into about second base at Roosevelt Park. Roosevelt Park in those days was the center for almost everything. Fireworks, there was a grandstand, they had summer fast pitch softball, we had one of the best teams in the country. High school football, the Rotary, or the rodeo, and the fair, all that happened at Roosevelt Park. So the city would, I believe, if I remember right, they would collect all the trees, or if they didn't, you'd take your tree down there and throw it onto this big pile. And then they burn the trees, and that comes from an old English tradition, burning of the greens on the 12th night. Not going to go into that, but Rotary Club, this club, had a chili supper that night, and it was along the west side of the Memorial Building, which is still there. And they set up a table with a bunch of chili pots and served chili and all the stuff to the town. Anybody that showed up. And usually it was, in my recollection, very cold. And so it was kind of and then they burned the trees, so it was festive, it was cold, and you're eating hot chili, and everybody's there. So Rotary did that. I think that's inspirational. One more story back from the 20s. The club I talked about the last few times, the founding group, 1925, in the Daily Whiz, there was several, all one spring and summer, they talked about this program, and the program was, in August, they brought in all the graduates from from the grade school, the kids that had graduated from 8th grade, and they were trying to get them to go to high school. And that sounds strange today, but in an agricultural town in those days, not that many kids went on to high school. I don't know the percentages, but so one of the Rotary's programs for that era was to get the kids to keep going to school. I thought that was pretty inspirational. One more thing, back to the 50s. One thing I remember besides the chili supper on 12th night was in the summer, you probably remember this, at Collier Park, they'd have a steak fry just for the Rotary family. The Rotarians, their Rotary aunts, or their wives, and the kids. And so we'd take over that park one night, and both at that event and also the chili supper event, you know, I remember the characters in the club who were, unlike my father, who were more outgoing, like Ted Shy and Dwight Sullivan. Slick Haley never said much, but you always knew he was very big present. He was inspirational to all us kids because he was such a famous, in our minds, person. Although he never said anything. Don Gruters, Jimmy Cannavaro, that's who I wrote down just now. And I'm sure, you know, we all remember some of these people. A lot of you were here when they used to sit over here at one table. And those guys carried, well, one more program. Same era, the Rotary Club, this club, bought a school bus from the school district that they weren't using anymore. It was kind of a medium-sized school bus. It was called the Rotary Bus. They took out the district's sign on there and put Rotary Club. And then that bus was available to all the churches and the charities and the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts in town. And I remember using that bus to go with Troop 66. We'd go over to usher football games at CU, which was another good deal for a kid. Our Pilgrim Fellowship youth group at Congregational Church used to use that bus all the time. We'd go up to Copeland Lake for picnics or on various projects. And the bus was in use all the time. And if I remember right, one fellow was always the driver, and he just was a retired school driver, and he was always driving the kids all over town, and everybody knew him. I forgot his name. That's enough for now. Thanks.